I have a problem. You see, I'm going to Japan soon. I know. A YouTuber in Japan, what's the worst that could happen? And obviously I want to bring my camera so that I can take pictures of Japanese convenience stores. But the issue is, I've been shooting JPEGs on my Fuji camera using the recipes, and I can't decide on just one recipe that I want to use. Now, one option is to just test out all the recipes I currently have and commit to one, or I could just use the app that this video's about, XRAW Studio by Fuji. So let's just do that. Now, as a lot of us know, one of the main reasons people buy Fuji cameras is for the film emulations or recipes. I mean, that's why I bought one, and I have been very pleased with the results straight out of camera. Now, I have found that there are times when I'm not super jazzed with how an image looks based on the recipe that I used, and I kind of wish that I would have been able to see how that image looked with another recipe. So what XRAW Studio lets you do is take the raw images that you capture, not the JPEGs, the raw images which still have all this delicious recipe metadata, and allows you to change all those settings after the fact. So if you don't like the color you used, that's fine, just change them. You don't like that an image is black and white, you think it'd be better in color? Do that. Now look, I know that technically you can do this in camera currently, but that seems unintuitive and not fun. And this is just like way easier. So here's the app. I'll leave a link somewhere down below where you can find it yourself. And also worth noting, this is an iPad, but this is strictly a desktop app. I'm just mirroring my display for the purposes of making this whole thing easier, but it's running on my computer right now, which brings me to the next thing. You'll need a few things to get this working. You'll obviously need a computer. You'll need a place where all the photos that you want to work with live. For me, I'm using the SD card at the moment plugged into the computer. And lastly, you need the camera that you shot the photos with plugged into your computer. That's because the app itself is more so just an interface for reprocessing. All the actual magic is happening on the camera itself. So to get this working, you just need to plug it in through USB-C or whatever your Fuji has, and set the connection settings to RAW conversion. After that, it should just work fine. So when you open it up initially, it's going to look like this. There's not going to be much going on, and you'll need to navigate to where your images are. Now, once you navigate to your photos, boom, here they are. So once all the photos are loaded in, everything that you're going to be working with is just going to be in this right-hand side little part of the screen. And if you have made recipes or navigated through your Fuji menu before, this is all going to look like pretty similar, right? You have the camera profile custom. These are all my recipes that I've made. I got them off Fuji X Weekly, just so you know. And then underneath that is just all the settings that you can change, which are pretty much the same that you're going to find in the menu system on your camera. So what does that mean? I have a naked photo here in front of me. This has nothing applied. It's just using the Provia/standard emulation to begin with. But as you see, as I start hovering over things, they begin changing. So already, like, I found this to be a really good way of like visualizing what all these actually look like. I found the classic neg is kind of like one of my favorites or one of my go-tos, so let's stick with that. You also have exposure as well, so you can pull it one stop up or like one stop down. You can change the overall dynamic range. You can change the grain effect. I am a big fan of grain, so I'm going to keep it strong and small. And you can also change your color chrome effects. Now, when I first heard of this, I had no notion what that even meant. But as I actually started being able to see exactly what it's doing, you can see there, it kind of makes like, pulls down the saturation on the reds and some of the yellows if you're looking at Garfield. It's like a subtractive saturation that you kind of see in film more so than the additive saturation that you see like in digital. Boom. This is the same, but just with the blue channel. White balance. Let's change the white balance. I like making my images a little bit warmer. You're gonna see that's frickin' way too warm. Let's just bring it down to like 7,000, 6,000. Then you can even change the red-blue shift here as well, which I love being able to visualize it like this, because otherwise I was kind of guessing whenever I do it myself. That looks kind of cool. And then highlight tone, shadow tone, sharpness, clarity. I think this is a great place to show clarity, because at least with my camera, when I take a photo with any sort of clarity, there tends to be like a buffer between actually taking the image, which I don't like. So I've gone ahead and made a few more changes here, but once I'm happy with the result I have, I can just hit convert. It'll save the image next to where the original one is in your storage. So as an SD card, it's just going to get saved straight to the SD card. But now in the app, we can see this new JPEG has shown up, and then we can compare it directly to the original. So here's with no effects, and there's with our look. And I'm really liking how this is looking right now, so I'm just gonna save this as a custom. Call it something X raw look. Yeah, that sounds cool. So now this should save directly to my camera. So let's go to a fresh image for a second and say we don't want to mess around with all the settings, we just want to change the actual recipe again. Well, you just gotta come over here, whichever you want, and it'll change it, just like that. Don't like that, let's try Ilford. Now on my camera I have Ilford set up to be a 1x1 square as well, because I like the look, and it does the exact same thing here. Or we can change it, Kodak Max 800, I love this look as well. Very kind of like vintagey looking. And then it's easy to just go through and say, oh, it's a little bit like too warm actually, let's bring it back down to just daylight. And there, it does it. So that's it. It's pretty straightforward, but this genuinely has changed the way I'm gonna think about shooting with my Fuji coming up, especially going to Japan, because now it doesn't matter. I shoot RAW and JPEG anyway for the crack, and so the fact that I can just change it to something else if I don't like how the images turned out, literally what more else could I want? What more else could I want? That's it. What more else could I want? So that's it. I'll put up some photos that I took using the recipe that I just made right now, along with the details if you want to replicate it yourself. But as far as the software goes, it's like very straightforward. It's something that I had no idea existed until like a couple days ago. And especially as a relatively new Fuji user, it's something that I kind of wish existed when I was shooting, just so I knew I had the option to change things after the fact. So I thought this could be a useful video for someone out there like me. Oh, and if you are someone who was annoyed by the fact that I kept calling a piece of desktop software an app, let me know down below. Anyway, my name is Robin, and I'll see you in the next one.